Welcome to the breakdown of the Luigi's Mansion 2 video. So it all starts with the writing, and this is what a script looks like. I put my name at the top. That's not how you spell my last name. I don't know why I didn't finish it. Give it a title, and then I always start with like opening. Opening for me is different from the rest of the video because it is the hook. It's what gets people to continue watching, you know? So I have to really explain the concept of the video or have a little bit of an explanation of what I'm talking about. And here I just give an introduction to what Luigi's Mansion is, you know, because we're talking about Luigi's Mansion. The first thing that people should see is Luigi's Mansion. And then I go into all my goofs and gaffs. For this video, I really wanted to try and stick with more of a comedic element. Within my writing, I would say stuff like, yeah, you're gonna suck the ghost dry and stuff like that, and then pull attention to it. And that would be the running joke throughout the entire video. And essentially, this is what a script looks like. I have my live action segments, I have my voiceover segments, and it's always in the middle because I feel like that is the most easiest to read when it comes to voiceovers, and it's the most easiest to kind of organize when it comes to separating my live action segments and my voiceover segments. Sometimes I'll put something in bold. That just means that's what I need to show in that moment. It's like action. Stuff like this is very helpful because I know in the editing room when I want to show something or I know I'm going to want to do something, putting it in bold really emphasizes that, and I read it and then I know. So like right here I had a bit where I just go, huh, but you know, if I just wrote ha, I might not know what I was talking about. So if we go into the edit and we go over to that part in the video, we see that I did that. And it's better to have this in writing than in the voiceover itself, because if I give notes to myself in the voiceover, I'm less likely to see it. Recording the voiceovers, I try to take out any bloopers or any misreading of lines, or if I feel like I need to do it better, you know, it just makes it easier when it comes to editing. I don't have to think too much. I don't have to listen back. I can just take the ins and the out point and just put it into the timeline without really having to think. You might also notice the script is color-coded. Well, this coincides with two things, one filming and one reshooting. Anything in pink in the voiceover is stuff that I re-recorded because I didn't like my performance when I went back and listened to it, or maybe I added in a new joke. This part had some new elements put to it than before. That's the beauty of doing something scripted. If I feel like something can be added later on, I have the ability to do that. Whereas if I did that unscripted, all in one take, had to edit it down that way, there'd be less room for additions. But yeah, after I'm done with the voiceover, it's time for recording the live actions, and this is the fun part. I have a lot of fun filming these live action parts, and as you can see, we have multiple files here. Anything that was in yellow on the script is our main A-roll. I call this the A-roll, I call this the main shot. This is the talking head that I mainly use. Just me on the couch with my funny little background talking to the camera. The blue is always a different angle, and I only do 2 angles. At one point I was doing 3, but that became a little cumbersome and became a lot harder to film. So I just stick it to 2 because I can always jump back and forth between the 2 when I need to. The only reason for me doing this is to just break up the monotony a little bit. Saying a very long line in one take, in one shot, can get really boring. So I highlight these sections in the script, but as you notice, there are some that are maybe purple. Maybe there's one that's red. These are just different elements. Red are a completely new shot that don't really play off of other shots, whereas purple might be a little bit of like a B-roll, or maybe an insert. So that purple was my beautiful Aunt Hecox on the phone over here. Now, filming live action doesn't look like this normally. If we take off my little effects, it looks like that. I'm a big color grader. I film on a very budget cinema camera because I like quality. So that often means coming in and doing some color grading, and this actually isn't the final color grade. In the midst of working on this video, DaVinci Resolve came out with an update. That update meant more color grading tools, and so I was able to make these shots a lot more vibrant and just pop more. Now, if I would have filmed this during the day, probably would have looked a lot better, but I did not have the time to film this during the day. So I tried my best, and if we take off the elements, you can see kind of what's happening here as we go along. I use a plugin called Dehancer, and it's just basically like a film emulation plugin. I can select different types of film profiles and like prints, and I can add noise if I want to, but it's mainly just a way to get like a really nice looking quick grade and have all these like settings that I can use. However, there have been times where I did color grade from scratch, and there's a lot of moments where it looked really good in my opinion. So then we have all of our elements, it's time to put it together, and editing is really like a fun part of this. It's where I insert all my gameplay footage, do all the little funny edits, and really this is the time where I go in and I label what's going to be my B-roll. B-roll is anything that I have to film that goes over these voiceover sections and maybe something that I'm not talking about. It can be silent. It's just me holding up a game case in front of a green screen, or maybe I'm holding up a case in front of my blue wall. There's nothing that really determines what goes on like green screen or what goes in like real life. It just all depends on like the feeling I have about it. And sometimes on a whim, I come up with a joke that I can do within B-roll, like me throwing the game out the window, but it bounces back. Sometimes a joke within editing doesn't have to be visual, it can be auditory. Like right here, I wanted to put emphasis on the moon exploding because it's just absurd. So I added the pop here and the explosion to go along with the gameplay, and I thought it was pretty funny. Sometimes if I really want to get a point across, I'll enhance it, and this is where this idea of masking myself out and putting words behind me came from. It adds a visual element that really just keeps you engaged and keeps you watching and really thinks about the point that I'm trying to make. The way that this effect is done is actually thanks to the beta version of DaVinci Resolve. If we go into our color tab, we have something called the magic mask, and this allows me to, paint myself out, and it does it in a really fast and really accurate way. The only other way you could have done this before is with After Effects' Roto Brush, and that could have always been a pain. While this one's not perfect, it gets the job done, and it does it well enough for me to continue using it in the future. Sometimes you have to hodgepodge an effect together, and that's what happened here with this B-roll. You might see it's just one clip, but if I open this up, there's a lot going on in it. I had to speed up the footage, as you can clearly see, in order to get the timing of this right. I wish I didn't have to do this, but, I was a little awkward with putting these games onto the screen. As you can see, there's a big warp within the rug because I had to push this game out of the way. If we look at this right here, pushing the game out of the way, so it makes the rug a little bit more like misshapen, but I think the effects still worked. And also, this is a good time to bring up that sometimes I have to make little props for B-roll. It's always specifically B-roll. There's times where I have props in like my talking heads, as I call it, but a lot of the time the B-roll is where a lot of these props come from, whether that's a game case that doesn't exist or that I don't have yet, to even something as simple as just like a visual representation of what I'm talking about. Sometimes even the simplest of shots become a VFX shot, and that could be annoying. Like here, I had to track Mario's face onto the vanilla ice cream. Originally, I was going to print out a paper version of Mario and put him on the vanilla ice cream. Sometimes when I have something planned out and it's a little bit more elaborate, even when it's simple, it kind of is a slog to get through. I try to avoid making things feel like they're hard or annoying when making videos, because if I keep doing those things, making videos start to become unenjoyable. So sometimes I save a problem for later, and that's what happened here. I could have just kept it where it's just the vanilla ice cream, but I don't know, I was talking about Mario here. Mario reflects the taste of vanilla ice cream. So it made sense to kind of visualize that in just a little bit way and give us some breathing room with the joke of him going, "Hello!" I thought it would have disrupted the pacing, but I think it's a fine inclusion. Now, I want to break down one of my favorite jokes, the appendicitis joke. So what made this joke one that I was especially proud of is all the elements came together in such a perfect way. Filming, the editing, the writing, just all of it. Because I always had the idea that I would get shot as a subversion of expectations, but I think what makes this joke work a lot more is the snappiness of it. Because there's actually a jump cut here. If I go frame by frame, when I'm shot, I'm already mid-motion. It's just to add a bit of punchiness to it and make it look goofy. Because before, when I started it where I was moving, he shoots me and you see the start of the motion. It's not as impactful. So here it's just a little bit more jumpy, and in my opinion, it's just a little bit more funny. But then to even enhance that, I had this little slow zoom out, and then when I'm shot, it like cuts to a more zoomed out look. I don't know, it's a small joke that I'm very proud of. When it comes to choosing music, if I'm talking about a specific series, I try to limit myself to only using music from that series. It's because when people are watching the video and they know of the series, they hear the music in the background and they know it's related. It's like a theme. And man, Luigi's Mansion is such a hard video to score for because the series soundtrack is just all over the place. It's definitely invoking more of like a creepy tone rather than a joyous tone. But I think Luigi's Mansion 2 and Luigi's Mansion 3 have enough in it to make it, work. Towards the end, it was more Luigi's Mansion 3 because I just ran out of stuff for Luigi's Mansion 2 and Luigi's Mansion 1. But yeah, when it's all edited, I add my little outro, and then this is more of a new thing. Just a template to know where I'm going to put the end screen elements. So I've added channel members at the end screen now, and I even added become a member. But you have your next video, previous video, and your subscribe button. But that's really it. And fun fact, the out screen music is the credits from Backlog. It's just the final moment of it. And the reason why I've done this is because using the end screen to stretch out a video's length is kind of bad for the algorithm. I hate that sometimes I have to cater to it, but in some moments I think it is justified and it is more of a better choice to follow it. here's one of those choices. I don't want to keep my end screen lingering on for the entire time. Whereas before, I would stretch it out to 20 seconds. Now I only stretch it out to about 5. I try not to care about video length anymore. I try to make every video above 8 minutes. It's just as long as it needs to be, but as short as possible. And I think this video is a great culmination of things that I am trying to do. I think it brings back a lot of my classic style that I've been trying to hone back in for a while, but it also adds a lot of new stuff that I've been trying to do as well. And it's a perfect blend, and it's something that I want to explore further in the future. And that's why this video is so special to me. It's the first time in a while where I really enjoyed the process of making a video all the way through. And it's something I want to take with me into making future videos. But yeah, I hope you liked this breakdown. If you did not watch the video already, please watch it. It's one of my favorites. And I'll see you next time I break down a video.